Evil. This is not a joke. I legitimately spent most of this week trying to come up with even the most half-assed head spin around gag that I could think of. I could not come. I was like, I could bring in a doll, but no, I got nothing. I really thought like because I just saw The Exorcist recently, so I feel like I was in a prime place for this. So I thought that was the best one because like I mean I'm not on a bed, so I couldn't really get the bed to
The
shake
whole
or
bed shaking
whatever.
thing, yeah.
Um, I thought about doing the spitting the pea soup, but all I could get was Panera New England clam chowder. It was tasty, so I just ate it already, I'm afraid.
Oh, well,
Um, and I really did not I did not want to say mean and gross things about your mother. I didn't like that one.
I appreciate that. Sure.
So I mean I guess welcome to the apocalypse. Uh we're gonna get you. The devil told us the whole time the hat was the devil the whole time. Hello everyone, welcome to Magic Talking Hat Podcast, the only podcast that bring about the end times. I suppose. I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 666.
Couldn't even do your voice different for that part or nothing.
Um,
Give us a little there. Oh,
episode
nice.
666.
You've been sitting on that for 665 episodes, and I'm just finding out now.
Yes.
You jerk. That we could have done so much with that. Think of the Lord of the Rings parodies. We could have done.
Sorry. Oh, I have one
right.
of these. I have one of these.
What is that? What am
It's
I
a
looking at?
it's a raven head with like a kind of a sigil on the top.
Oh, like a lesser Kia Solomon
Yeah, kind of.
beeswax.
Yeah.
All
Have one of
right.
those.
Well, you
But
want to
that's all I
explain
got.
that? You
Do I
want
want to
to
explain this? Oh,
Yeah,
so
why it is that you killed a raven and inscribed it with
uh,
dark and vicious runes?
I mean it's resin. It's not.
Why you
Um,
why you killed a raven and then used it to make a mold with which you could make a resin raven head and then inscribe it with dark and vicious runes?
it's going to be part of a costume down the road.
Brr, that's a
What?
very small costume.
I said part of it. It's going to be like it's
Yeah, the
actually
head.
I'm going to
Oh,
wear it
okay.
right here. It'll be
Okay.
on.
I assumed somebody was gonna wear it as like a hat over
No, it's
over
not a
their head.
mask for a costume. It's
That's what I
part.
was imagining. We have
So
not we have not done well with this.
if people didn't know, they'd think we were just doing all this to be topical because in Des Moines, in the Iowa Capitol building.
Oh yeah, I accidentally caught something about this. Didn't somebody
So
beat up Satan or something?
kind of the rotunda of the Capitol building has Christmas displays, and I don't remember when they decided this, but at some point they decided, well, it's since it's the state Capitol building and we have a Christmas tree up and everything, it really wouldn't be right for us to not allow other religious displays in the rotunda during the holiday season if they want to, and people, different groups do that, and one group that does it is the Temple of Satan, which isn't the Church of Satan.
No.
Anton LaVey's Church of Satan is different. This is the Temple of
Temple of
Satan.
Satan is aggro atheists as a church.
Yeah, I guess. Even though I think LaVey's thing was also atheist, really. They don't really believe that Satan's real and worship him or anything.
Well, yeah, they get debated and actually the church sort of schismed because of that exact thing. But
Okay, well, anyhow, the Temple of Satan had a display there with it's kind of a statue, I guess, Baphomet or whatever. And a few days, well, it's going to be like a week ago when people actually see this, but someone came and like took the head off of it, took the goat skull head off of it. and it turns out it was a fellow from Mississippi, a former
I mean,
uh,
way to play against type.
a former Navy pilot and pilot instructor who has often campaigned for a state legislature seat down there and lost. But I guess he came up here. He's in his 30s, I guess, and he came up here and he took the head off of it. And it's made like national news. And there's been a lot of discussion about it for some reason.
How do you feel about this, William?
How do I feel about this? Like, there's lots
This
of things
current
to unpack
event. Yeah.
Lots of things to unpack. First of all, I completely agree that with the Iowa legislature, that if they're going to put anything in the rotunda at all, they should allow other people to put things in. I agree with that. I don't object to the Temple of Satan having a display there, although people have pointed out that they didn't, that wasn't allowed until they got special IRS status during the Trump administration.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how I feel about the IRS being the arbiter of who gets religious protection and who doesn't. I mean, I don't think that's really how, free speech should work. I think if they wanted to, if they came and said, hey, this is what we want to do, that we're the Temple of Satan or whatever, I agree that the Iowa was obliged to let them do that. I certainly object to it being defaced. That's not right. That's, that you can't, people can't just come in and do that, especially some guy from some other state. He's not even from Iowa. He comes up here and he does this. But the debates have been ridiculous, as they usually are when it comes to these things. I'm a little surprised that it's getting national attention. It's being talked about by national figures. Not too many. It's not like big front page news or anything, but I have a news feed for Central Iowa News, and I saw it there first, and I think Eastern Iowa News covered it too. Okay, and then like a day or two later, I start seeing things from like AP, and like, what's going on? Why do people care about this? And there are people who think that they shouldn't have been awarded IRS status, or that they shouldn't be considered a legitimate religion that is, that should enjoy protections in the United States. I think that's really weird. I mean, to me, it's very straightforward. These people had every right under Iowa law anyway to put that there, which means whoever vandalized it committed a criminal act, and they should be treated as such, which I think they have been. And that's it. There's no story here. It's just really not anything.
As is so often the case, I agree with you 100% and have come to a completely different position.
Oh, okay.
This constantly happens. No, I agree with you. Anybody in the current system that follows the same rules to get that status as a church should be able to have that status as a church, and should be able to have the right to do all the things that all the other churches get to do. And the dude from Mississippi's a fucking dick and definitely broke the law and should be punished for it.
Which I think is happening, so that's fine.
Actually, not even however, comma, semicolon, maybe. I support the Temple of Satan's right to become this sort of organization, and I support them existing as this sort of organization, because through them, people who do not belong to the other faiths can use the same political leverage and legal loopholes and flexibility that people in other faith organizations have, because I don't believe that should be a thing. I do not believe that there should be laws that say you have to do X unless you believe otherwise, because anybody can say they believe anything. But if we're going to say that, there's an abortion ban unless you have a religious belief against it, and the Temple of Satan's like, yep, no, we're super, abortion is our sacrament, definitely, and that allows people to get their legal protections, I think it's dumb that it has to happen that way, but I very much support the Temple of Satan in these sorts of efforts. However, this is just them being a dick. Like, do they have the right to put a statue of Baphomet up with all the other holiday things? Yes. Is there a point to it other than, I guess, the political flip side of owning the libs? No, they're just being dicks. And if I could even see a way where this works, if they want to exercise their right to put up like notifications that say we actually have problems with this whole thing and that's why this exists and we think that there should be a separation, that's informative. This is just them being like, look, we stuck a devil in your cute little Christmas thing. They're just being assholes, and I don't like it. They absolutely have the legal right to do it, but fuck them.
Well, so I agree with most of what you just said.
See,
in fact, again, I probably agree with it with another semicolon, which is this. You know, I would sooner we not have any of this. It's kind of like gay marriage.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of gay marriage because if we're going to have marriage, it's stupid to not treat everybody the same. Yeah. Do I think the government has any business in licensing marriage and regulating it in any way? No, I do not think that.
And it's the same thing with faith. If people are going to get certain rights via having an official church, then absolutely everybody should be able to get in an official church, whatever their beliefs. But ideally, none of them should get that.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I agree with that completely. But as far as them being, and I also think you're right. I think they're trolling. I mean, I think they would admit that they're doing that.
And for the record, I feel the same about the Pastafarians, who I used to be way into, but not so much.
But here's the thing. I would rather live in a world where people can do that than one where they can't. I mean, this is an issue of conscience. And if they want to be a jerk about their feeling of conscience, okay, I'm glad they feel like they can do it. And for those of us who, who feel like they're trying to poke us in the eye about it, well, their freedom to do that is the same as our freedom to put a Christmas tree up wherever we want, say Merry Christmas and everything else. And also
I will vote in favor of their ability to do it all the time.
Also our right to say what you just said, which is you guys are jerks. I don't respect what you're doing here. Be gone or whatever. I mean, that's the society. I mean,
but I envision that's what we got to do. That's what they got to do. However, you can also have the Church of Universal Peace, and we just believe that things should be peaceful, and it's a deeply held belief. And we make no bones about the fact that we're just atheists. However, we also make no bones about the fact that this exists specifically to allow people who don't believe in one of your faiths the same political protections. And that's it. Like, you could just be that organization,
right,
and not be a dick.
I suppose that's true. Yeah,
that's true. And they absolutely have the right to do this. Is so many things nowadays. People like to argue about if I have the right to do this, and it's like, yeah, under the law, you have the right to do so many things. A lot of them, though, there's no real good reason other than being an asshole.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
And I just get tired of it. I don't. And here's the funny thing. I'll put it another more succinct way. I think the Temple of Satan, although there are underlying political reasons to do it, I think the Temple of Satan's claims and the way they act about it is done in bad faith. These other organizations have religious beliefs, and yes, they leverage them potentially unfairly. The Temple of Satan is pretending to have religious beliefs, and they don't have to.
No, they don't have to.
They don't have to do it this way. And so the fact that they are is just fun for them. And it's whatever. It's fine. I'm just like, you're kind of a dick. I still think you should be able to be a dick, but
yeah.
I don't necessarily want to hang out with you. Which, to be honest, as a random citizen, is as strong an opinion as any of us should fucking have. Like, if the legal part is decided, it doesn't matter. Like, whether or not I approve of you exercising your legal right kind of doesn't matter unless you want to date.
Yeah, that would probably matter then, sure.
I mean, you'd hope, like you'd want to discuss religion early doors, I would think. So I'm Temple of Satan. Is that? Oh, you're one of those fuckers who just puts up Baphomet to piss off the Christian. But that's the thing. I don't want to fucking. I want the evangelicals to go away. I want the evangelicals out of politics podcasts. I also want them out of podcasts. I want them to leave me alone, and I do not want them to infringe on anybody's freedoms. But I don't want to fucking at them. I don't want to mock them. I don't want to. And I certainly don't want to waste time and effort and news cycle and taxpayer funds and whatever else to do that.
So
being a dick.
So the individual who did this, it's hard for me to imagine that I'm being very cynical here, but I think he was going after a certain kind of publicity, right?
Ooh, I mean, I don't think he was I would be shocked to find that he is confused about how things went.
Yeah, right. Like I just don't believe that he had some deep religious conviction that he was doing something heroic for Christianity or something to do this. I mean, it's like this guy keeps losing elections down in Mississippi. I mean, he thought this would get him some notoriety and play to a certain base or something.
No such thing as bad press.
Yeah, he clearly didn't think that he was scoring one for Jesus here. I just don't believe it. And I don't know. It's not the kind of thing I want Iowa to be in the news about, but yeah. I think the conversation is kind of interesting.
In case it wasn't clear to people, I am not on his side. I'm just also kind of not. I mean, again, legally very much on the Temple of Satan side. In terms of what the fuck are we all doing? Not on their side particularly. This is an event that didn't have to happen, and everything could have been exactly the same.
Also, in somewhat related news, archaeologists are finding in various places a growing number of curse tablets. Have you heard of curse tablets?
I mean, I know I've heard of tablets, and I understand the basics of how cursing works.
A curse tablet is usually made of lead, small. They engrave a curse on it, and they fold it up, and they'll put it in a place where hopefully the person would never find it. Bottom of a well, or they'll dig a hole some random place. One was found at the bottom of a latrine.
I've seen variations of these in a variety of horror movies. Not always the same physical thing you've talked about, but that same kind of thing. You stick a charm somewhere, and it does its work as long as nobody finds it.
Yeah. And they
also, this sounds perilously close to a bullet with my name on it. You roll it up, and
it does. Well, like they found one that was like 2,400 years old, very old, and it was someone who was trying to curse a dancer. In a I don't know what the whole context was, but it was very long and eloquent. They said that it was very well written, wanting the dancer to trip or to not be able to see what they were doing or not to be very coordinated and things like that. I guess this was a rival dancer or a competitor.
That person was reincarnated over and over to become Truman Capote. This was Truman Capote's soul's first curse, which now that I'm saying it out loud is far too long of a title for the episode.
It was in Greek, and it was so well written. The scholars say it was so well written, they think that someone hired a professional to write their curse.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna be petty and you have the means.
I thought that was so interesting.
And the best way to be petty is to also be rich. I mean, the best way to do most things is to also be rich. But when it comes to pettiness, like, you can't top it. They found which is a great segue into something I did this week. But you want to talk more about curses? No, go ahead. No, go ahead. No, I want to hear all about your curses.
There's one that was more recent, like in the 15th century, which is later than they typically think they're going to find these things. And it was very low budget. It basically,
Hope his dick fall off. The end.
no, not even that complicated. There was the name of three demons, I think, well, or evil entities. There was Beelzebub, Satan, and a third one that I wasn't familiar with, but it's also supposed to be like an old ancient um evil representation or whatever. And those were written three times, and in between each one was a name, a proper name of well, they're not sure, but that seems
This
to be the
sounds like
formula.
it could have been early song lyrics.
But that seems to be
Beelzebub.
yeah. So that seemed to be the formula. You write like Satan, and then Tony, and then Beelzebub, and then William, and then another, and then you fold it up and you throw it in a well or something, and that all by itself will curse us if there's someone.
And it seems that this medieval peasant was attempting to curse someone named Beetlejuice.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was all pretty interesting. You know, the way people came up with these kinds of things, and it became a profession in it. Well,
yeah.
I don't know if writing curses. I mean, maybe the person just wrote all kinds of things, but curses is one of the things they would write.
I mean, there are a lot of equivalent to curse writer professions that exist today, so I don't know what
you're right about that.
But
you're right about
that. Did you watch the CZ's World Horror History on the Candyman?
It's on my list of things to do. Actually, I do want to see that.
I recommend it enough that I watched it and then had Trish watch it. Trish was less into it because Trish doesn't give a shit about these plotline things. I was really impressed. Technically, because of it's because of bad continuity issues and the fact that the second and third Candyman movies are apparently shit. But the movies, the chronology of the movies is not the same as the actual releases of the movies, and not because one's a prequel or something. Their present day doesn't match up with the actual ones. And he found some really cool ways to tie in some random stuff and some gaping plot holes that I thought was really cool. But the big thing is he also spends a lot of time talking about the metaphor behind it and the history of the story it came from, and how it ties into the growth of urban legends in general. And it's really interesting. So yeah, I would recommend checking that one out in particular. No, when you're talking about curses and I was talking about being petty and rich, I remembered something that I did this week.
Okay.
I said to Trish, what movie do you want to watch? It's date night. We usually watch a movie. And she said, I want a holiday movie. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, that's an incredibly broad category of which I am generally not too familiar. She says, like Die Hard. And then she laughed at me. And I'm like, I'm not, whatever. And I'm like, what do you, unless you want a Christmas horror movie, I probably don't know. And then she's like, what about Trading Places? And I was like, Trading Places? Oh, yeah. Trading Places. The 1983 Eddie Murphy film. One of two films that shot him to actor stardom, 48 Hours and Trading Places. Also Dan Aykroyd, also Jamie Lee Curtis, also a bunch of good people. You've never seen it? I said to Trish, she says, I don't think so. And I was like, holy shit, that's what we're doing. We're watching that right now. Because I was a suburban white boy at the right time period where I worshipped Eddie Murphy in the 80s. He was the funniest. What problematic? What does that mean? He was the funniest guy in the world. He did funny voices. He made fun of the gays, which I just thought was hilarious at the time. Just all sorts of things. He was black, which was fun for me, again, as a suburban white teenager. And so I lived on these. I famously talked about how I taped Beverly Hills Cop and Beverly Hills Cop 2 off of television and literally wore out the VHS on one of them. I think the first one. Other than Princess Bride, those are probably the two movies I have seen most in my life. And also I love Trading Places. So I'm like, we're gonna watch it. We watched it. That was weird. It is, and actually in the process, I've learned other things. We're probably going to watch the Beverly Hills Cop movies soon, and I think it's going to be very similar in some ways. Uh the movie is insanely problematic. I remembered it was quite problematic. It is way more problematic than I remember. Somebody drops a full-on N-word, and it's not a black dude. Um, we have a couple of different variations of Negro. Also, fucking Dan Aykroyd is in blackface.
I don't remember that. Huh.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Wow.
I told Trish at a certain point in the film, I'm like, now the film's gonna get very silly. And then we suddenly were on a train, and I'm like, oh shit, correction, now the film's going to get extremely problematic in a lot of ways. And I discovered there are still a lot of lines I quote from it, even though I really shouldn't. Mostly involving Eddie Murphy's Cameroonian exchange student on the train, including lines like beef jerky time and thank you for correcting my English, which stinks. Yeah, there's a lot of issues in it. But at the same time, all if you can acknowledge that and push it to the side, fucking holds up. Fucking holds up pretty good. And for 1983, has a remarkably progressive view of class. It somehow doesn't quite tie it to race as effectively as it might have, but the distinction of what the rich can do and what the poor can do and why one is like one and stuff is surprisingly early 80s progressive. So that was kind of fun. But then the very next day, Netflix drops a trailer for the upcoming Axel F. Yes, they are making another fucking Beverly Hills Cop movie. And initially I was like, oh, God damn it. I am sick of sequels and reboots or whatever. We shouldn't be doing this. And also, the third one, I actually paid to see it in the theater, and it sucked ass. And I was like, ah. And then by the time the trailer finished, I was like, shit, I want to see that. They brought back fucking everyone. Judge Reinhold is back. The old guy who was with Judge Reinhold is back. Bronson Pinchot is back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Serge has returned. Ronnie Cox is not there, but Paul Reiser's back. Why the hell he would do that, I don't know. And because every Beverly Hills Cop movie has to have a cop who is like mad at Axel the whole time and is like telling him, you have to stop this, you're this guy. And in the first two, it was kind of collectively Judge Reinhold and the other guy. And in the third one, it was Hector Elizondo. The movie sucked. In this one, it's a fully bearded Joseph Gordon-Levitt. How is that a thing? So yeah, I'm going to see it. I'm not positive it's going to be good, but I'm going to see it. I'm excited for that. But then I find out my wife hasn't seen the Beverly Hills Cop movie. So I'm like, I know what we're doing for date night this week. And I expect a very similar thing. It's going to be problematic as hell. And other than that, really good. By the way, we didn't mention earlier, for those of you just joining us for the first time, it's episode 666. Stop and go listen to a different one, or hold on to your butts, because this is the end times. I don't know what to tell you. You picked it. You saw the number. So how was your week?
It's good. So kids had there was a Christmas party at my stepdaughter's business, and they got her and her husband a hotel so that they could, they could stay late, enjoy everything. So they asked us to watch the kids, and so we did that.
Oh, they didn't leave them home alone? Put Delmer in charge?
I mean, wow, that's a really scary image right there. No, we had the kids in it, and that was fun. That's probably the biggest thing that happened. We watched Barbie.
Had you not seen Barbie?
No, it just became available on
Yeah, on
something.
Max. How did I
So
forget you hadn't seen Barbie? I would have been harassing you about this.
I know
All
we
right,
didn't go to the theater to see
let
it.
me guess. Mad Max Fury Road.
What?
That's how you feel about Barbie.
Uh,
The same way you felt about Mad Max Fury Road.
I don't remember how I felt about.
You were
Uh,
like, I don't know why everybody says this is so goddamn feminist. It's a perfectly fine movie, but
oh no, I mean I no, I get why people
yeah.
think it's feminist or whatever. But
What did you think of Barbie?
it just didn't wasn't my thing, I think. I mean, I didn't hate it.
Guess you're not enough.
I can so a lot of the people I know who liked it, I see why they liked it. I think I see why they liked it. But it just didn't connect for me, I guess.
Well, and for all that it is a different thing, and I'm still cracked up that I know somebody who was excited to see it and then didn't like it because it was too political. And I'm just like, holy crap, did somebody just tell you there was a Barbie movie and you went? Did you see no trailers or anything? But outside of that, there is a definite heavy nostalgia. And I play with Barbies. I mean, I always had to do it stealth. I always had to play with I always had to hang out with a girl and play with her Barbies. But so I don't
Mm,
know, it registered some for that. And I think if that was like a wholly sort of not a thing that was part of your childhood at all, it maybe wouldn't do as much. I don't know.
that's part of it. I mean, I did get the feeling.
I figure
What
all your toys were like corn husk dolls, and I don't know if corn husk dolls get dream houses or not. I don't know.
I did get the feeling that nostalgia was going to be some of it, but I think also that I think for I mean, I know a lot of women who it resonated with not just because of the Barbie thing, or maybe not at all because of the Barbie thing, but because of you know the speech that's given kind of in the middle of the film. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
that resonated with them, and
That
that
one
they
that's going to be a high school monologue for
yeah.
years to come.
Um, but for me, it was it was just like I couldn't always follow what was going on. Honestly, it's like it shifted from this to that to the next thing, and I
Hmm,
just as I was trying to figure
interesting.
out what was why did that just happen, it would move on to something else. It seemed pretty disjointed to me, but I don't. It's probably
It
me because
it does have a this is maybe I'm coining this phrase, a pendulous tone.
I guess. Well,
I
like
don't want to be so mean as to say uneven, but it very intentionally switches tone, and not just in an obvious way. Like there's just sometimes where it's kind of serious, and then other times where it's just a fun made up goofy thing.
well, yeah, like Ken's big musical number came at a point
My heart.
in the film where I when it happened when it started, I was like, they're doing this now. It just seemed to just like just be totally
Mhm.
shoehorned in, and and it was fine. But it's like I feel like this should have been earlier or at a different. Like I was actually anticipating it was going to happen over and over and over again, and it didn't. It didn't, and then it did, and it made no sense to me for it to be there, and then everything in it didn't make sense to me really after that. So I was like, I don't understand how this is all put together. This is not this is not
Yeah.
a beast that I recognize. And again, it could have been just me because I mean,
Well, but also at its heart, it is a uh big tentpole, hundreds of millions of dollars movie made, if not by, then under the auspices of major corporations. So it's neat. It's good for the things it did. There are so many things it didn't do.
mm,
And it's not that it's a fucking perfect movie or anything. It's that it is notable for certain good things, but it still has plenty of bad things, and also it could have gone so much farther had it been allowed.
well, like I say, I don't really even feel qualified to go, analyze it that far. It's because I don't feel like I
You're
got it.
you're mostly your area of expertise is pretty much beach.
Yeah, right. I just feel like if I were a film critic, I wouldn't even feel like I could cogently write about it because I'd feel like I don't. To me, if you're going to write a film criticism, you got to give the film a chance. And if I, as the viewer, feel like I just don't think I even basically understood what this film was trying to do, I don't think it would be fair for me to really say that much about it. And that's all I'm trying to say is I don't know if I wasn't awake enough or alert enough or what. It just didn't. I mean, we took care of the kids, right? And we were up all night because the little one still feeds like every 2 hours and stuff. So, I mean, maybe I just wasn't awake enough to really appreciate what was going on, but it mostly confused me, to be honest. I mean, individual scenes were fine, most of them, but it's like, I just didn't get it. But it was a
If you'd
cultural
like to
moment, so
explain the Barbie movie to William, go to the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, or just comment in this YouTube video when you smash that like button. But do it all fast, because again, this is the end times.
one of the things I liked about how it started was I thought, and
I
I've
have
always
never
thought,
heard anyone not on the Congress floor talk so much about how they don't feel like they can talk about something.
I just want to say one thing about the beginning of it
Well,
because
you passed that a few things ago.
well, it just lost me after the beginning is what
All
I'm
right,
saying.
please.
I felt like I was with it until like anyway. I thought it was really clever in how it tried to conceive of a Barbie world based on how the toy is actually played with, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like the whole thing about Ken being sort of a sort of an appendage, if you will, because that's how. I mean, when I was
Yeah.
growing up, and I knew girls who played with Barbies, they had Kens, but Ken didn't do anything. He was just
No.
there with her with whatever she was doing. I thought that was pretty clever. I mean, and
Well, and the most obvious one being that none of the houses have stairs
yeah.
because you don't do that. They just float down. And so that's what actually happens in their world because that is what happens when you play with
That
Barbies.
I thought all that was very, very clever.
Yeah. In
But then they
general, their
lost me.
use of the narrator was really good.
Yeah. But after at some point in that they lost me.
I mean,
I
you've always
never
been a low key misogynist, so I think I get it.
okay. Probably too sophisticated for me to
I
understand
mean,
it.
what isn't? Let's be
Exactly.
honest.
That's exactly right. You're right about that. How was your week? Oh,
Real,
getting out
real
the cell
psych,
phone. Here we go. Here we go.
real psyched for January.
Oh, yeah, your birthday's in January.
Let me see. I talked about Trading Places. I talked about CZ's Candyman. Um, I saw so one night I'm cruising through Netflix looking for something I'm gonna want. Netflix has not been good to me in the Trish has gone to bed and I want to watch a movie category for quite
Mm,
a while.
mm.
They just don't have my kind of thing, old classic shitty horror movies and stuff like that. Uh and so but I try and give them a chance because we are spending more on them than any fucking buddy else. So we're doing that and nothing. And then it pops up one called The Sentinel that is from 1977 and has a Metacritic score of 19. And I'm like, yes, please. And so I watched The Sentinel. It is there until New Year's. If you have Netflix, I highly recommend you go watch it because it is awful. It also has every actor that was working at the time and several you didn't know were working at the time.
Mm.
Christina Rains is the lead. Chris Sarandon is in it wearing the most 70s mustache. Um, Jerry Orbach is in it for some reason. Eli Wallach. Uh, Jose Ferrar in a role that I don't understand what the point of his character was, but he was there. Uh, 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 Beverly D'Angelo as just like a little baby, playing essentially a mute showgirl. Like, I don't know, but it's like an actual part. It's not like she was an extra or something. And my personal favorite, Burgess Meredith as this mincing little queen in these linen suits, with his little bird Mortimer and his little cat Jezebel, and it's just the best. Um, oh, and Christopher Walken in a role where he just is like really young, so he just basically has to look sexy and have like 3 lines. He's a cop, but he's like the partner of the actual cop, and so he doesn't really say anything. He stands in the back and looks intimidating and hot because again, young Christopher Walken is fucking hot, and this was young Christopher Walken. So I would recommend the movie. It's pretty, but it's also terrible. It makes no sense. This is a great time. I would recommend it. Let me see. Uh, we are still doing Poker Face. We finally are doing that since we now have Peacock. And that's fun, but there's not a lot to say about it yet. We're like 3 episodes in. It is interesting in that it is sort of a cozy mystery series, but it subverts it at the same time. And I'm not used to that. So sometimes I want it to do certain things because I want it to basically be Murder She Wrote, but it doesn't. It's also one of those murder mystery shows where it's not a whodunit, it's a how catch 'em. Are you
Yeah,
familiar with this? Yeah.
like
All
Columbo.
the episodes are how catch 'ems. And Trish and I both don't like those nearly as much as whodunits. But they do it well. This is a good time. So we're still enjoying it. But and we watched all 3 of the Doctor Who specials
Mm.
on Disney Plus, because that's where they are.
Hmm.
Um including Trish, who gave up on Doctor Who a while ago. So, for those of you not in the know, Jodie Whittaker, who was the Doctor after for like 2 seasons, stopped and regenerated into David Tennant, who was a previous Doctor several Doctors ago. That hasn't ever happened in the canon, and so it was a big plot point that he was like, why have I got this face back? Like, what's my deal? And this translated into 3 specials that involved reuniting him with Catherine Tate's character Donna Noble, who was a fan favorite long ago. And it was sort of a little mini-series thing, and it was fine. The big highlight was the villain of the 3rd special was Neil Patrick Harris,
Mm.
so that was fun. It's very the thing that I think of as the post reboot Doctor Who issue that a lot of people have, which is it frequently replaces plot with melodrama,
Mm.
where we want to elicit certain feels at the expense of anything making any goddamn sense, to the degree that we contradict ourselves many times or just don't explain things or we hand wave a ton. And this one leaned heavily into that because it was a weird sort of, it was a mini series meant to give a certain uh closure to both David Tennant's character and Catherine Tate's character. But in the process, we got our first real serious look at the new Doctor, the actor of whom is a black man, a young black man, and who I think after he got cast back in August, he came out as queer. He
Mm.
hasn't really defined what that is, but I'm excited for that. And I got to say, the character comes across as more camp than I am used to Doctors being,
Mm.
and I'm here for it. I'm very excited about this guy. He seems fun. And his first actual episode is going to double as a Christmas special and air on Christmas Day, and Disney Plus will have that as well. I think that's it because they don't have the series. Max has the series, and Max usually gets it like a year later. So it's probably going to be a while for that. But if you have Disney Plus, you can watch those. And even if you haven't been following, if you are a fan of Donna Noble and the 10th Doctor, check it out. My wife did. So enjoy that. But quickly, because it's the end. And to celebrate, we have what will apparently be our last, maybe the last ever email that anyone
Mm.
ever sends.
Very last one.
So
Here we
it better
go
not
here.
be Azure Talents. Otherwise, I don't know if we can take credit for the end times.
It's Jazz.
Oh, thank goodness. This is okay. This is the email rapture then. This email is going to take Jazz and all the other good people up to heaven.
Yep. Congratulations to all you good
We're
people.
going to be left here with all their clothes.
Yep. The subject line says, "What you will." Sorry, there's a question mark. What you will?
Oh, so it's not like some weird slang greeting for you. What you will?
No, it's not about me.
That feels spicy in a way I don't think I like.
Okay. All right, here we go. Several paragraphs here.
Oh my goodness.
She says,
Went out not with a bang, but with a whimper and several paragraphs.
Yeah. She says, I've been thinking a lot about free will recently because I've been reading interviews or watching videos of scientists discussing whether it exists. I always wish I could ask these folks questions. And so here are some of the questions or points of discussion I'd raise. Oh,
I mean, you're coming to the right place.
One neurologist was citing an experiment that she said showed that there was no free will. In the experiment, people are told to hit either a button on the left or right. Measurement of their brain activity shows that signals are being sent to initiate the movement to hit the correct button well before the person is conscious that they have chosen to hit the button. So the lack of consciousness of choice is equated with lack of free will. Yeah, I've heard that argument before also. Here's my question.
All right.
Here's my question. There is some process in which the examiner asks the person to hit a particular button and the brain activity begins, which eventually results in the button being pushed. Whatever we call that process by which a person can hear a request and respond to the request by either doing what is requested or refusing, there is something going on that isn't random and isn't being determined by some kind of outside force, even if it begins without consciousness. Isn't that intention/will?
I think so. There is one other possibility thing, but I also deny this one. The other possibility is that you have, since birth, your genetics are such that you were always going to hit the left button if somebody told you that. And I don't think that one's true either. And yeah, outside of that, something happened in you that was neither random nor externally influenced, or at least consciously externally influenced. Yeah. So it's free will. There you
Well,
go.
I also,
End of discussion.
it does
Get
seem
out.
odd to me for someone to take non-conscious mental activity, which of course we all have, as an indicator that we don't have free will. I mean, I understand what their angle is. They're saying, well, it's happening without you consciously choosing it. But I don't know whoever argued that free will is entirely possessed in your conscious mind, and your unconscious has nothing to do with it. I don't quite.
Well, and let's even also add to the mix, one experiment doesn't prove anything on the scale of whether or not fucking free will exists. First of all, do this another 1,000 times with proper, simple, random samples. Then do it again, but specifically say, all right, Tommy, I want you to push the left button. You are free to push either button, but I am instructing you to push the left button. This is a test which determines which button. We want to see what button you press when I say that. And then see what fucking happens. See how that works in their brain. Because I'll bet you get different ones. I'll bet you get ones of like, I'm going to push this. Oh, let's change our mind to the left. Like, so many components. I'll bet the results will get completely different, assuming you have any consistency of results in the first place. So we win. Free will's real.
So the next question. The neurologist even said that if you tell people that free will doesn't exist, it affects their behavior such that they begin to behave less ethically.
Oh my God. influence is a thing, well, then I'm sold. There is no such thing as free will. If somebody can influence you, free will is not real. If I can convince you of anything, clearly you have no free will.
That's pretty hilarious. This led to a discussion in which the scientists were saying that the illusion of free will seems to have evolved in humans because it helps us as social animals to behave better, more ethically toward each other, and that this has survival benefits. But if telling people that they don't have free will changes their behavior, doesn't that mean that they are controlling their behavior in some way?
Yes, in some way. Nobody's saying is you have exclusively free will. Literally every thought and decision you have is wholly uninfluenced by your surroundings. Nobody's fucking saying that, you
No,
dumbass scientist, if that is your real name. What bullshit is this?
I don't know. And see, the thing is, there's so many.
I am way more annoyed that this is making news rather than the stupid Church of Satan thing. At least that is vaguely interesting.
Well,
Fuckers.
and there are other experiments. There's
Don't say
the
other experiments. There are experiments besides this pile of shit. Whatever.
they're like the Milgram experiments where people would shock somebody because an authority
Yeah.
told them to. Not everybody did it. And then there's
No.
the Asch conformity experiments where I think it was like a third of the people would say a shorter line was the longest because of peer pressure, but 70% of them didn't do that. So I mean, there's
Yeah. The only way you prove free will doesn't exist with this experiment, again, if you do it thousands of times, is if you're like, okay, so Dylan, push the left button. I'm gonna give you $1 million if you push the right button, but push the left button. And Dylan's like, well, fuck you. Oh my hand, my hand. Left button. And that happens to every single one of them. What is this? Here's my thing. The fact that you have brought free will into your scientific experiment is 100% bullshit right there. Because outside of some incredibly gross definitions that are just demonstrably, obviously untrue, you can't test for that. You can't test for free will. I can find no definition that I'm willing to listen to of free will that can be constrained in any definitive way within experimental rules. The logic just doesn't hold.
Well, but also, and this speaks to what you're saying too, is that as soon as I say I chose something, someone can always say, but maybe you didn't. Maybe it's this. Then I can go one level deeper and say, well, it's this. And then they can go one level deeper. And that's the problem. You can just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you'll never get to the bottom. And, like, it's kind of like when if I give somebody a gift and I said, well, I did that out of the kindness of my heart. And someone says, no, you didn't. You got something out of it. This person smiled at you. They said, thank you. You've probably gained some favor with them and you did it for that reason. Well, how do you know? I mean, just because I got something out of it doesn't mean I didn't do it out of the kindness of my heart. Yes. It's completely, yes. You can completely not determine that.
Yes. And you know what this is exactly
experimentally.
Like? You know what it is to experimentally determine any intrinsic value of personality or cognition within a person. It's exactly like racial profiling.
That's interesting.
Because here's the thing. Let us say hypothetical. In fact, we're going to get so hypothetical. I'm going to make up a fake race. Their skin is plaid. They are from Mars and they're called Venusians. It's stupid, but that's how they are. And I'm not talking propaganda. I'm not talking at different versions of truth. We have empirical, concrete, repeatable, verifiable evidence that 85% of all Venusians are criminals. They just are. That is not proof that every Venusian's a criminal or that a Venusian that's not a criminal doesn't exist. Like, can use that information arguably in ethically dubious ways in policy, but it is proof of nothing.
Yep. Yeah, I see your point.
And it's the same
Last
thing
question.
here. It's well, look, when I said to everybody the magic word, which was Steve, 95% of them did what I said. And when I didn't say the magic word, only 30% of them did what I said. That is fascinating. And that is very interesting. And there are some cool correlations there. It proves jack shit about free will.
Agreed. And this is the last question. Then,
Christ.
just to play devil's advocate, when looking at judging.
Hey, this is a good time for that. We are big about advocating for the devil.
Yep, on this episode, that's what it's all about.
Just in this one.
Yeah.
Me most of the time, but William just this episode.
Yeah, just this one. I'm also going to take a penny, but I'm not going to put one back. Then, just to play devil's advocate.
Goatee flexing in and out of phase on your face.
Then, just to play devil's advocate, when looking at judging someone else's actions, isn't it the case that for an action that has already occurred, the person had to do what they did? That is, all the life experiences that shaped them up to that point resulted in that decision or that way of behaving. That doesn't mean the person couldn't learn and change, but that the way they are, but that the way they are at just the present moment is determined by everything that has come before. Jazz. Well, I mean, that's one way to look at it. That's one way to look at it. I mean, certainly when I think most people's experience is that when they have what they would consider a selected behavior, right? They've had time to think about what they're going to do and they do it what they would consider intentional and deliberately. They're making that decision based on information that they have available to them. And that's reflected in their life experiences and so on and so forth.
And the sum total of stimuli and reactions to said stimuli that have occurred since conception, right. I presume, or before then even.
But I don't know if anyone would, I mean, I think it would be a mistake to say, I don't think Jazz is saying this, but I'm saying, I think it would be a mistake for someone to say that all of those experienced caused that decision, because if they have multiple, many choices, they could stop and go, well, this is the thing that I would normally choose. This is the thing that makes most sense to me right now. But, this, I'm interested in this for some reason right now. So you know what? Forget that. I'm going to do something different. People can always and often do that.
It's this is very much my vision with time travel as well. This is very much possible. It is possible that none of us have any free will, and that from the beginning of existence, everything was written out. God planned it, for lack of a better term. But that's something that is by definition impossible to prove, and therefore doesn't fucking matter.
Right. Well, it's by when scientists say, well, we have the illusion of free will. It's like, so you admit that our experience is as if we have free will, but you're going to go ahead and argue that we don't. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, if we think we do,
you're also us. So
yeah, right.
No, this is where I get mad again, because this is another thing that bugs me.
That's another thing.
This is intelligent fucking design. I will argue against most of the tent poles of intelligent design. Their arguments suck. But I will not argue that there is not some intelligence behind evolution. You know why? Because it's not a thing that can be proven or disproven. And whether it's true doesn't matter. Whether or not God did it or Stephen Hawking did it, I don't remember what the other option really is. The rules are the rules, and that's what we're studying, is the theory of evolution and natural selection and all that.
Right.
What happened in the very beginning is an interesting conversation with the proper intoxicant, or I guess at a Temple of Satan meeting. But it doesn't impact us. We live here in the fully enclosed us. existence. Now, if God is getting involved, then, well, that's a very different argument. That's not intelligent design. That's some dudes coming in and being like, "Now, you monkeys, now your name is Frank. Walk straighter. Walk. Tool use, damn it, tool use. Do it. What? Don't argue with me. I'm God. All right, that's not evolution.
No.
And that's fine if that's what you believe, but that's a different argument. If intelligent design is like, no, nobody's around, bink, I set it all into motion. Great. Ask someone who cares. I get very angry about free will, but I have the freedom to do that unless you influence me to do this, in which case there is no free will.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't think often when I read these things or I hear these, I like how you pointed out that that you, the scientist, you are also us. It seems so ironic, that when
Are
they
you
talk
sure
about
you
this,
have the freedom
yeah,
to prove that free will isn't true? Or
yeah,
were you forced into that somehow? And if so, how? That's the it's not testable.
no,
It's
it isn't really.
not, it's free will is not a concept you can lock down except in the most gross basic terms of, and those are self-demonstrable. Can I make William say fuck right now? No. Like straight up. Even if I hired several guys who are running late to put a gun to his head, I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but technically I couldn't force it.
No, I'd still have a
And
choice. I could say, well, I guess I'm going to die.
exactly,
I mean, that would be
exactly,
my choice.
exactly.
Someone might say, well, you were always going to make that choice, William, because it was determined before whatever. But I mean,
as soon as I called Johnny Three Thumbs, it was determined that you were going to make that choice.
Well,
but that's the thing, and outside, and that one is very easily testable. All around us, all the time. That is one of the few things I would put out as common knowledge. We have the capacity to not pick the one thing; we can pick the other thing. Beyond that, beyond other than that basic definition, it's not testable. Now, if you're saying, do we have free will in specific moments, in specific points within a decision-making process, that's something you could prove to me. You'd be like, see the way the brain is here? By the time you get to this point, there's no way your brain's going to switch around because of electrodes and thing, whatever. I'm not saying they did prove that or that it would be easy to prove that, but that's a thing you could prove. You could say, here's how the brain makes functions happen. And at this point, the brain has a mechanism in place where it will not be reversed on this path. That's a thing you could test. It still doesn't mean you never made that decision.
yeah.
See, William here is choosing to try and understand me. He cannot, but he does. It's not because of a will issue. Well, I mean, it's a will.
No, I understand you. I
got lost in the pun. That wasn't on purpose, people. I'm sorry. I feel bad.
There's just an infinite regress here that you're just going to chase. And I think part of it is some scientists have a problem with free will existing, basically. These are the same scientists, though, that have a problem with other perfectly empirical concepts like emergence and feedback loops and things like that, things that we can observe in nature and we can predict. Now, what emerges from those feedback loops are often things, like consciousness, like free will, like all kinds of other things that you can't predict. And maybe that, I don't know, that bothers them, I guess, or they like to be able to reduce everything to atoms and molecules. I don't know, but nature doesn't work.
And it's a glib cocktail party assertion.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to say we like to think we have free will, but really the world around us is constantly pushing us in certain directions. And really, we think we're making decisions all the time when we're not. I actually super believe that. That's a social concept, though. That's not, humans do not have the spark of free will. It is no, humans have created a society in which we get to choose a lot less than we think.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the brain's capacity to choose,
Yeah. It's like
like
going to the
inherent.
super going to the supermarket and choosing a cereal, thinking we're choosing a cereal company. But no, one company owns all the
Yes.
cereals and we're choosing them every single time
But that doesn't mean that you are physically incapable
of making a
of
choice. Yeah.
picking up the knockoff Cheerios box.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. 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 Right.
it's dumb. We're also over time. I'm tired of this stupid free
And it's
will.
the apocalypse anyway. Everything's going to
Yeah.
end and you don't have
Yeah.
a
Now
say.
you got no free will.
Yeah. Gone.
Um,
Wasted it. You squandered it.
yeah. I would so last night we're having dinner with our friends, as we are wont to do on Sunday nights. And we won't be able to next Sunday night, obviously, because we'll be away. Because it'll be Christmas Eve and we'll be with the family. So we're talking about, oh, what are the holiday plans? Da, 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 da. And my friends who are pagan say we're going to keep the kids out of school Thursday morning, but then we have to take them in the afternoon. So we'll open presents and everything. And I'm sitting there going, Thursday? What the fuck? What are you talking about? Their winter vacation doesn't happen till then. And why you got the doctor's appointment? No, but she said what? And then instead I'm like, oh fuck, they're pagan. It's Yule. It's
Yeah. Yule on
that's
Thursday.
when they celebrate.
Today, when this
Yes,
airs.
when this airs. And that's the thing. And so then I had to tell them, I was like, funny story. So preemptively, I feel like I owe you an apology. By coincidence, we're recording it tomorrow, but on Thursday, we are posting episode 666 of the Hat. And so that made me realize I would like to apologize to the pagan and neo-pagan communities out there. Even though William really got a hard on for this for some reason, I personally have no association with the winter solstice and Yule and the devil. William was super excited that it was happening on Yule, in a way
Thought
that
it was
he
a fun
clearly
coincidence.
thinks, and you can even see on his Ravenhead thing that's a pentagram, which
Oh, yeah.
so, but I would like to distance myself from that. William, as per usual, William's the bigot, not me.
Mm.
Hail Satan, pagans are fine too. Thank you.
I don't think the pagans have anything in the rotunda at the Iowa Capitol. They should maybe think about that.
That's because they had just a head, and a guy showed up to behead it and just took the whole display. That's all they had was a head. If they'd had a whole body, it would have been better.
Oh, yeah.
Uh so even more than usual, given the end times, uh emailing us is pretty much just, sort of farting in the wind, as the metaphor goes. But if you'd like to, I mean, if you want to email with questions, comments, topics, whatever you'd like, that clearly will never get addressed because the world will have ended, feel free, feel encouraged to write in the magical talking hat at gmail.com. Also go to the blog if blogs still exist after the universe dies. I feel like they will. The magical talking hat.com, and give us your comments on things, or just comment on the YouTube. Just let us know you're alive, because otherwise I'm going to assume you are all raptured. And I hate to think that my listener base has been 100% people who would get raptured.